How's it going, guys? This is the Core 3 from fightinggamesonline.info, and I'm back again with another fighting game tips and definition. This time we're going to part 5, and we're basically going to talk about mix-ups, and this is going to be our first part of mix-ups. We're going to have 2 parts for this, all right? So I briefly mentioned this in the second part of the tutorial, but now it's time to go in depth with one of the key fighting game strategies, mix-ups. Now that you understand the concept of basic space control and movement, we can take things one step further. Okay. When many of us started to play fighting games, one of our first inclinations was to jump attack the opponent, making them block high, and then immediately upon landing, attack low. And I'm going to just show you exactly how that worked out. All right, let's get the good. Just like that. So basically attack high, then go low. Attack high, then go low, right? In these cases, players were still getting used to blocking the low attack and would often fall for this trick easily. We may not have realized it at the time, but this high into a low attack was just one type of mix-up we had incorporated into our strategy, one that would later become hard to land as players started to gain more experience. So as fighting games progressed, developers started to implement additional movesets for certain characters. And you kind of could say that they were trying to mix things up, right? So one of the newest movesets they added became known as a overhead, all right? And you've kind of seen this already, but overheads allow you to attack an opponent who is constantly guarding low, hitting attacks, right? And I've already showed this already, but I'll just do it again. I'll put them in crouch. Just put no guard. Oh, it's wrong button. But that is essentially an overhead, right? Oftentimes, overheads are command normals, but as I discussed in the previous video, they can also register as jump attacks, right? And just to kind of give you an idea that this stuff is actually like how it's supposed to work, I'll just do a first attack. And you'll see him guard the first attack, right? And you kind of see he's standing up to kind of block for the overhead, right? Which is I'm about to get into, right? All right. So the biggest thing that differentiates the two is usually the speed, as jump attacks tend to be a much more easier to react to compared to a well-timed overhead, which is often something that you have to anticipate in order to block, all right? Like blocking a low attack, defending against overheads requires the block in a certain manner, right? Which is simply just the opposite of blocking low while standing while defending. And of course, that's what you've been seeing here is, of course, Ken is basically standing in order to block this attack. Because if he doesn't, right, if he doesn't have the attack, if there's no guard, if he tries to block, crouch guard, then I'm going to be able to land this attack, all right? Now, before overheads came to be, another strategy was the main go-to for opponents who relied too much on blocking or crouch blocking in period, And basically this was throwing, all right? In most cases, special attacks that use throwing mostly work against blocking opponents as well. In later fighting games, a new mechanic would be used to help defend against this throw, and that would be referred to as tech throwing. And I'll see if there's a possible way to show this. All right. So there you go. Tech throwing does differ for each fighting game, but usually it's as simple as just pressing the same command. Now, as fighting games progressed some more, players found more interesting ways to find an opening on their opponent, which led to the discovery of right or left mix-ups. Cross-ups would be the main technique for taking advantage of this. To successfully execute a cross-up, a player has to land a jump attack near the opposite side of the opponent. A great way to practice this is to aim for the shoulder area of your opponent. So let me just kind of just give you, let's give you an idea of that. All right. And kind of what you'll notice as I'm doing the cross-up is that it's actually indicating that this is a cross-up, and it'll indicate usually, on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see cross-up. Oops, I'm messing up here. All right. There are also certain characters who have special moves that allow them to do left or right mix-ups, like a Buki here, okay, which has a move. Basically allows her to go to the other side of the screen. Oops, didn't mean to do that. And basically you gotta guess what side she's gonna be on. All right. Oops. All right, so there you go. Now, defending against a cross-up is different than what you normally do against attacks. Or cross-ups take advantage of something that happens in the fighting game engine. All right. Because cross-ups essentially happen during this event, instead of holding back to block like you normally would, you have to hold forward because in essence your opponent is switching sides, right? And kind of what you see here, of course, is you'll notice that that's what kind of happens in these games is that the minute I come on the other side, the character kind of switches, right? So that's basically what's happening during a cross-up, okay? So it'll take some time to get used to, but learning how to do this effectively and being able to block them will really help you, especially giving you an edge against your opponent, all right? Now, while mix-ups can happen at any time during the match, the best time to use them is after a knockdown. Okay, once you knock down an opponent, they have the burden of guessing your next move. And this turns into a very complex game of rock, paper, scissors. Once you have this advantage, you now have to decide whether to do a mix-up, to retreat to a better position, or bait an unsafe reaction. And it's important to mention that when you knock someone down, they're invulnerable for a certain period of time, which means that you have to time your attack. So let me just, I guess, give you a few examples here, right? So if I kind of knock the opponent down, oh, I messed that up, and go for a cross-up, right? So that's one form of mix-up, right? Knock the opponent down, maybe get into a safer position to attack again, right? Do a knockdown. Maybe I decide to go for a low hitting move, right? Another knockdown, you might decide to go for an overhead, right? So basically it's just keeping the player guessing as to what you're going to do next. All right, am I going to knock down? Am I going to go ahead and maybe go for, time it and go for basically a left or right mix up? So, what's going to be the mix-up, essentially, all right? So I think as I was saying before, it's important to mention that when you knock someone down, they are invulnerable for a certain period of time, which means you have to time your attack, all right? Too soon, and you basically open up yourself for a world of hurt, all right? Too late, and then they can block, all right? Now, of course, you will get knocked down, but you'll get up again. All right. And how you get up again is a very important part of defending against mix-ups. Right. Getting up from a knockdown is known as a wake-up. There's been a lot of changes to this mechanic over the years, and unlike in the past, you have additional options to deal with incoming mix-ups. The most notable addition is quick rides, which makes it harder for your opponent to do a mix-up. So let me just give you an example. So as you might notice, when they wake up, it's like they're kind of just instantly getting up, right? Versus, let's take the recovery off, and you notice that basically it's taking a little while for them to get up, right? So between these two, essentially, you kind of have to time the wake up, right? How long does it take him to, to wake up there versus how long it takes to do it to the normal recovery wake up, right? And if we take it like one step further, they also have what's called a back recovery that essentially allows them to kind of escape even further from the opponent after a knockdown, okay? So although quick rise is a great option to use after knockdown, you still have to be careful about using it. There's still options to deal with quick rise as it cuts down your invulnerability and it cuts your invulnerability in half, making it easier for an opponent to follow up with another attack if they're aware that you're about to use it. So as a rule of thumb, it's never a good idea to use quick rise if your opponent is just within inches of you after you've been knocked down, right? So, and then just, in this instance, he's a lot further back. This move is knocking him a lot further back. So yeah, it might be okay to do a quick rise because, me trying to chase it down, the most I might be able to do, of course, is an incoming jump kick. And, with the quick rise, it might be, it could allow you essentially to come up with another move, that's going to basically counter that move, essentially, basically a counter an aggressive player, right? Same thing with the normal recovery, of course, same case with the normal recovery. It just basically gives them a chance. The further they are, the easier it is for them to quick rise, right? Now, quick rise in some cases can be stopped by a special attack known as a hard knockdown. And those in some cases can also stop quick rises as well. Now, in the case of Street Fighter V, I'm not quite sure if there is something to deal with quick rises, but as you see here, you have, like, of course, the back recovery. But if I throw Ken, essentially, he still does a quick rise, but it's not the same retreat as you saw right here, right? You see, he kind of got away from me, but in terms of throwing, he basically has to do a normal quick rise, all right? I think he's still right. There's also a wake-up tool that certain characters have that allow you to attack. Characters like Ryu have special moves that allow you to do what's called a reversal, allowing you to put your opponent in the same position you were in just moments ago. This small window of opportunity comes right after your invulnerability ends and are best against very aggressive opponents. So I'm just going to give you the example here. So knock a Ken down. Now, as you might have guessed, reversals are a very big gamble. In most cases, a reversal is making you commit to something that is unsafe. So if your opponent believes you're going to try something, this could potentially make things worse for you, okay, in terms of a punish. And, so if I know for sure that's what you're going to go for, well, guess what? That's just kind of cost you a lot. So it's, like I said, a very big gamble. So I think I'm going to stop here for now. Take what you've just learned and put it into practice. While it's best to try what you learned today in matches against other human players, you can definitely create scenarios in the training room before taking on real opponents. We'll be going more in depth with mix-ups in the next video, so make sure that you have these concepts down before moving forward.